So hi everyone, thank you for coming to our online talk. This is Ipe. Today I will be your moderator. And before we starting the online talk, please help to mute yourself. If you have any question, there's a chat room. You can leave the message for us. We can see it. So today is a very special day for me, for SUAVEART, because this is our first time to host an online art talk with two special guests. Both are them as a curators and artists in Poland and in Hong Kong. It's a very rare time to invite them, and then we can talk here. So before starting, I would like to introduce how do I know Max and Aga. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is when I met Max in 2013. He came to Taiwan and doing the residency in Taipei Artist Village. This is a really special, how come there's a Polish artist in Taiwan, and what are they going to talk to introduce their artwork? So actually Max and his partner, they took a long trip in Taiwan. They play around the Taiwan for almost a week, and they find out there are similar way to connect Taiwan and Poland. That's why after 3 years, I started to discover and then explore how it looks like, how is the art scene happen in Poland. From the screen, you can see attached photo now. It's my first time to curate an exhibition in Poland to introduce Taiwanese artists and the Southeast Asian artists in Poznan. And then this is this poster also designed by the Max. Next slide, please. So today we have two special guests. I would like to talk about what's their background. So Aga Agnieszka Mori, she holds a PhD in visual arts of University of Fine Arts in Poland. Now currently she's living in Hong Kong. She's also a co-founder of a Clip Lifestyle, a company to focus on the Polish design and the arts. During her long stay in Hong Kong, he also coordinated and organized many exhibitions between Poland and Japan. So later we will know more about the Posterized, this exhibition curated by Aga and Max. And then Max Skorwider, he also holds a PhD. At the moment, he works at the University of Fine Art in Poznan. He is also a head of the graffiti department. Among his international awards, he participated in many most important poster biennale and exhibitions around the world. Later, he will introduce us about the phenomenon of the Polish art history and how the Polish art school happening now. So let's start, and then welcome Max.
So please let me introduce myself. I'm Max, nice to meet you. I'm very happy to share some part of the Polish design history, which I think is very interesting because it later on influenced most of the world in the way of presenting poster and this special language. I'm also very happy to share it with people from Taiwan, and not only from Taiwan, also from Asia and international, but especially from Taiwan, since I've been there twice, and I have a lot of good memories from that time. So I will explain something about Poland at the beginning. Actually, Poland is an eastern country of Europe, and it started to to be strong and more, let's say, rich or more independent in 1989. And before that, it was communism time in Poland, and the country was kind of under influence of Soviet Union. So we didn't have much liberation, not much democracy, and everything, as you can see on the pictures here, seems to be very gray and sad in some way. So during that time, actually, why I'm mentioning it it's because Polish poster was maybe the only window to the Western world. Suddenly, we didn't have that big school of poster before. We had some poster designers in the Art Deco time and before, but they were not as important as it started before the Second World War. At the beginning of the 50s, we were under the influence of this propaganda posters, and after Stalin died, Poland started to talk by itself, and the poster designers, they got some more liberty, let's say. So I'm presenting here some streets, how it looked before. Some of them, they kind of look fancy and retro, but in general, it was really poor and sad time because we couldn't possess anything. So we were kind of starving, and it was really, really sad time. And also it included several martial laws and situations that were putting people outside of the streets and making some kind of protests and barricades. So during that time, we were very much under the Soviet influence, but we had some liberty. So the poster suddenly, that's what Aga mentioned, started to be more, let's say, some kind of artistic way of presenting your opinions and your thoughts about art in general. It started to be a new discipline in Poland in the late 50s. So I'm presenting here some kind of streets of Warsaw, of big cities, also because the posters that when they appeared on the streets, they started to be kind of window, as I mentioned before, to the Western world. So seeing that very much concrete and gray streets in the opposition with the posters, it was something very visible. And many people started to recognize the posters by their style, because a lot of poster designers, they had a lot of skills and they were making very independent projects. So that's how the shops looked like, and also what's happening here. I don't know. And people were trying to get into the trains sometimes. There were not so many shops and not so many things to buy. Not so many people had cars. Not so many people were rich, and they were waiting in the long queues to get something to eat, to wear, and stuff like that. And yeah, that's how it looked. And also, sorry, there were a lot of protests, of course, and it put people on the streets with the protests to receive something. So the main thing was the liberty to achieve, and also posters were kind of supporting it. And later on, it started to be kind of movement of political poster or a social poster. At the beginning, there was this famous Biennale of Poster in Warsaw, which Aga will mention about, which was held in the late 50s actually. And there were many famous names that later on they impressed very much the Western world. So the Western world was coming to Poland to get to know more about this special language. So I'm going further. And nowadays, when everything crashed down and we have changed very much, we are still under the influence of the poster style. I'm presenting here some pictures how Poland looks like nowadays. So it's much more developing and growing, and everything seems better, except maybe for the right-wing government, which we mostly disagree with, but they try to mention and promise a lot of things, so some people, they believe it and they vote for them. So Poland is a eastern country which includes mountains, snow, medieval architecture, and also architecture from Renaissance time, and also some kind of modernity, which you can see on the pictures. Also seaside, where we spend our holidays. This is my city where I live, where Aga also comes from, with the Renaissance old market. Some places with the mountains, and that's how streets they still look, having posters in the different mediums. Before they were just attached to the walls. Nowadays that we have certain places to present them, they started to be more important. And what is nice, the influence of the Polish School of Poster started to make kind of institutions for the poster. The poster is still very important, and many people were thinking that during the system change, we won't have the same continuation of the poster. But since we have internet and many fast reactions of young graphic designers, the poster is still alive, and I think it's actually nowadays it's in the best possible situation. So it's very much alive, I would say. So we can see that there is a lot of cultural and social posters, and also by itself it started to be self-published poster, which I will mention later, presenting some kind of circus posters. So not necessarily poster designers, they will answer the needs of the clients, but also they would create the posters they want to make, and they would hang it or send it to the competitions. Actually, in Poland, there is a lot of institutions, schools. Each university will have poster workshops. We have in nearly every big city, we have some kind of poster contest or poster exhibition, which will turn into biennales or triennales or some kind of salons of presenting best and the most interesting posters. So going back to the point, I must say that poster is a very important medium, and it's still nowadays very alive, and also it's part of the way younger generation wants to react to the system. Also, when they are against something or they want to change something, they would probably design their own posters which will mention or criticize the system. And also most of the theaters, they would not go for the big advertising agencies, but they will go for designers by themselves. So they would design posters for theaters, for operas. Also the movie posters are still alive. So everything nowadays is very much about posters. So that's my introduction point, and I would like to give my voice to Aga to present something about the history about Polish poster design and the Polish Poster Biennale.
Hello, hi everybody. First of all, thank you, Max, for your great introduction, and thank you, Ipe, for having us here tonight. And this is a great chance that we, as a let's say the maybe fourth generation of the the school of the fathers of the Polish posters, we can talk about that, and I'm really pleased, and I'm doing that with a great respect to the artists from Poland. I would like to talk a bit about how it all started, that Poland became a spot on a map of in the history of the Polish of the poster art itself, and how it comes that it's such an important place in the world when we talk about poster. So let me talk a bit about the first Polish poster biennale, which happened in Warsaw in 1966. And which motto was to confront the best achievements in poster design of artists from various countries in order to better understand forms of expression in modern poster design in the world. So how it all started actually? There is not so many information about that. And since till 2015, we thought that there was one leader who was responsible of all that thing. But actually, there was, in 2015, the book came written by Katarzyna Moduł, who discovered more and found out that there was more people involved, and many artists from Poland were working on that to make the Biennale of Poster, International Biennale of Poster happen. And the mission to create the poster was big. The artists in Poland in the communist time, they had a mission to create a worldwide known international Biennale of posters. So they wanted to appear on the map of the most important world reviews of contemporary art, like Biennale in Venice or Biennale in São Paulo. Then how they could convince the government in those times? They tried really hard to make it happen. The first thing was that they used the poster as a kind of a trademark. They just convinced the government. They wrote notes to the government that the poster is our national heritage, and we can become famous globally, showcasing the poster internationally. So there was one of the organizers who wrote a note to the Polish government explaining how important the event will be and how Poland can exist on a global map. Then they also explained that the placard is like a sport, that it can be something that will make us famous internationally. So somehow the government decided to let it happen. And there was actually two men who were most involved in that, and one of them is Józef Mroszczak, and he was a very passionate graphic designer himself, who knew many languages, who traveled around the world, who was building connections by creating very strong friendships with other artists and designers, who was reading a lot, who was always fascinated about everything what is new about the fashion, about design and art around the world. And he was the one who became the long-lasting leader of the Biennale almost till late 70s. He was like the main advocate of this idea, and like a leader, and many people followed him, and many international artists were impressed by his charming personality. There are some proofs that the idea of creating the Biennale started already in the 50s. And this is one of the proof that was recently discovered, that the first logo designed by Zamecznik happened in the 50s, advertising the exhibition for 59. And then actually here also it's interesting that we can see how the design was made. It's typed on a machine typed, and it's hand painted, and it's very unique, and that's how the artists creating the posters, they worked in that way. Here we see some more sketches of the designer who was Wojciech Zamecznik, who was creating the logo for the Biennale, and we can see how it developed from the first logo, and we can see how it was changing into a simple form of a square with a dot inside. So the logo somehow, which was accepted by together by the organizers committee and the government, the logo somehow it shows us a lot. It shows that the Polish poster was fascinated by the painting techniques and the great craftsmanship of the Polish artists. And the dot is somehow representing the new avant-garde and the Bauhaus movement. And it shows the new innovations and that the artists were always open to the new. And other hand, we can see also like the dot is concentrating in the rectangle that it's like a poster, it takes our attention. So the whole graphic visual identification for the first International Poster Biennale was very beautifully designed, including the diplomas and the invitations, the cards, the application cards, the flyers, and of course the poster. So this is the poster of the first International Biennale in Warsaw in 1966, which happened in the gallery Zachęta. It has like 4 languages included, so it shows it's an international event, and it shows the 4 directions, like the east, the north, south, east, and west. And the jury of the Biennale, how they were choosing the participants. I think it's an interesting question how it happened for the first Biennale mainly. So as Poland was in the communistic bloc, so the countries from the other communistic countries, they were invited by the chosen associations. But the artists from the capitalistic countries were invited individually. And it was not well seen to invite individually any artists from the, let's say, Eastern Bloc. That's why the posters were very, very different. Of course, the jury was also an international team, and the choice was not accidental. It was very well thought before they were inviting the members of the jury as well. They wanted to have a prestigious event, especially the first one. They wanted to keep it going. They wanted the Polish government to support it. So they really made the research and invited all the very big names in the graphic design in these times. And the participants, there were more than 30 countries involved, artists from 30 countries invited, more than 100 participants. The selection was also quite well thought, and actually, for example, they invited very, very famous artists like Alexander Calder or Jean Miro. Those artists were creating posters mainly for their own exhibitions. And the artists were invited by asking the gallery to send the posters. So that's why here Alexander Calder and Jean Miro are representing France. Then there was a big amount of Japanese artists participated in the first Biennale. And one of them is a really, really important person, Yusaku Kamekura, who was the first president of JAGDA, Japanese Graphic Association, the oldest Japanese graphic association. And he was also a winner in the second Biennale in 1968. And he also received a honorary doctorate from the Academy of Fine Arts in Warsaw. So we can see that the connections were pretty strong, and that even though that Poland was behind the Iron Curtain, then they knew, and they had the connection with the international famous designers. Here also we can see that for the first edition, Iko Tanaka has been invited. Iko Tanaka was the Muji director, and he's one of the most recognizable designer in Japan nowadays as well. And also Kazamusa Nagai, who was born in 1929, is still living, one of the most acclaimed Japanese designers and printmaker. And we can recognize his logo design here as the Japanese railways, for example. And among, of course, of the famous international names, there were all the best, the cream of the Polish artists from the School of Polish Poster that Max will talk about later a bit. So we can see the winner of the first Biennale, Jan Lenica, with a poster which is considered one of the more iconic poster of those times. Then we can see also many names that are very important in the Polish history, and especially here, Mr. Henryk Tomaszewski, who is considered as a father of the Polish School of Poster. Then it was a kind of phenomenon that we also had artists coming from China and from Vietnam. And those artists were, the posters were more like propaganda posters. And why? Because they were chosen by the country committee. So it means that probably it is what the country wanted to show on the international review. At the international review. So here we can see the winners of the first Biennale in Warsaw, and we have the 4 very beautiful posters that I would like to pay attention to. So it's the Jan Lenica, and then Hiroshi Tanaka from Japan, Tomaszewski from Poland, and the advertising poster. Let me tell you that the first 3 posters are more in the culture category, and the last one here, Kazumasa Nagai, is in the advertising poster category. But the way the Japanese artists advertise the product is a kind of very special and unique in the aesthetic. And here's the image from the first exhibition of the Biennale, and we can see Henryk Tomaszewski, the father of Polish Poster School, with his glasses, and he's very characteristic. He had a style that very recognizable. We can see his poster here, and also we can pay attention to the beautiful arrangement and how the posters were exhibited. So I think we can see the effort that the artist did to create, to organize the first exhibition of the Polish Poster Biennale. Here the Jan Lenica in front of his winning poster. Here we have some image from the opening, so it was kind of crowded. There was the Ministry of Culture in Poland opening the exhibition, so the government was pretty proud. Then we have the director of the Zachęta. She was introducing to the ministry the exhibition. And also we can see that it was that there was a lot of foreigners coming, which was not so common in Poland at this time because the borders, they used to be closed. And it was, the event was kind of a fashion show as well. So many magazines and newspapers were writing what is now fashionable in England or in France, like observing the ladies and the style. So this was a very big thing, like for Poland. The Biennale was something that it's very hard to imagine how difficult it was to make it happen. But on the other hand, it could happen only there, like combining this, the politician situation together with the artistic aspect of the posters. There was also like a big installation outside of the gallery, like with the flags of all the country participating. So this one shows how proud the Polish people were of organizing such a big international event. And here we have the prizes, the awards posters from the second Biennale, and this is a phenomenon that we had Andy Warhol here. And how it happened that he was taking part in that Biennale, and it's not really proved. And we don't have many documents from that times left, but it's for sure he received an award together with Yusaku Kamekura, the Japanese artist who designed a beautiful poster for the very, very important event in Japan, Expo 70s, and also Kazumasa Nagai, which I was talking before, who also received a prize. And we can see some Japanese designer in the background. We can see the Andy Warhol poster here. And the third Biennale was also had a representation from Japan, 2 awards. And it was the last Biennale, the third edition was the last one when it was by the invitations, and it was working like this 2 ways, inviting the Eastern Bloc artists in a way of inviting by them the organizations or associations chosen by the governments, and inviting the capitalists, the artists from capitalist countries by invitations. From that, after that third Biennale, it was all by the name invitations. So I will just show the fourth Biennale here. Let me just switch. The fourth winners of the fourth Biennale, there is a very important person among them. It's the Shigego Fukuda, the Japanese artist who was many times in Poland, and he was had a lot of friends in Poland and also a lot of exhibitions, and he was also a big inspiration for the Polish artists. And again, we have the Iko Tanaka, and among them we have Waldemar Świeży, one of the also iconic artists from the Polish School of Posters. So what happened next? Actually, the Biennale was growing, and every year it had a lot of attention, and it was something that all the important newspapers, magazines were writing about. And after that, in '68, the first poster museum at Wilanów near Warsaw, the oldest institution of that kind in the world, opened. And this museum is the first poster museum dedicated only to posters. At the opening, we can see the Polish famous artists and the leader of the Biennale. And yeah, we can see that the museum has not really changed. It looks like that now, and it has a beautiful logo which looks like a poster itself, and the collection contains almost 36 titles in the section of Polish poster art and almost 25 titles in the section of foreigner posters. And I will just fastly switch to the latest editions. 24th International Poster Biennale took part in 2014. In the jury, there was Kenya Hara, the current director of MUJI. So we can see that the Japanese connections are still happening, and the Japanese representation is always important. And of course, we have some other international famous artists in the jury together with the Polish ones. And what is here some kind of new, that from the latest editions, there are more and more artists from China, from Hong Kong, that are taking part and receiving awards. So, for example, in the 24th, there was a bronze award which was given to Freeman Lau Siu Hong from Hong Kong, and also the Mroszczak Award, the leader of the Biennale, organizer award, which went to Haiping Li Design Studio from China. And in 26th edition, so the last one that happened in 2018, we also have awards which came to the Asian artists. Among them is Kazunari Hattori for the poster A Cup of Sake, and Tu Shen from China to the poster The Cost of Safety. And also we have a poster from Mingliang Li, Poland 100. And here I just want to pay a short attention to the poster that also received the award in the last Biennale. It's called Constitution, and as it's written in Polish, so but it's a very important poster. It became a symbolic poster of what happened in Poland now. So I think everyone in Poland recognizes it. And the meaning is quite important because it's like the letters which are highlighted. Ty, it means you, and ja, it means me, and the whole sentence Constitution, so it's me and you. And from now I would like to ask Max to talk more about the phenomenon of the Polish School of Poster and about the posters itself. And I think it's the most interesting part of the lecture, and thank you. Yeah.
What is the most interesting about the Polish School of Poster is that most of the designers which were based on that school, they were actually great painters, great graphic designers, great photographers. They had all skills, but they didn't have much, let's say, tools to create it. So they had to design things with the things they could find in the shops. And nowadays we mostly design things in Illustrator on some kind of digital programs, and it's really simple to put everything up in the project. But in the past it was really difficult because most of the designers, they had to draw and paint the posters. So when we look at those posters from the past, we have to know that one thing is very important, that they had a very great skills of creating things. And poster by itself, the idea of poster, it's something that has to happen. Is those two important things, that there is the concept, the idea, plus the skills that we have. So if they all work together, then we have a message, an image which will catch us on the street. Because poster is not like a painting on the wall in the museum that we watch it for hours. We have to walk by the street and we have to catch something and read it immediately, and then we know that something is happening, that something is trying to get us into it. So the posters from the beginning, they were very interesting, and also they were based on a lot of personalities, a lot of different artists which were designing the posters. So actually this Polish School of Poster was not one way of presenting things, one style. It was many hundreds of different styles which were creating posters over 40 or 50 years. And those posters, they were building the history of Polish poster. So I would start with, that's my introduction, and the thing I would like to start with is the idea of, because there was several kind of different reasons we are designing posters. So one of the main thing was the movie posters. What was interesting, that most of the cinema and Hollywood productions and Western things, they were not happening in Poland. They were not coming on time. So when they started to come, the government didn't let the designers to, they didn't let us to have the same posters as they were designed for the movies. The designers, they had to design the posters which were actually made by themselves. So that was the alternative version of the poster. And mostly it was based on the idea, because at the beginning, those posters, which they had to be designed for the movies, they were designed by the artists which haven't seen those movies before. So it was something which made them create the image from their imagination by knowing, for example, the screenplay. So I'm showing some kind of some different posters by the well-known designers. What is for me, what is important when I watch those things, that the first thing which we can recognize is the balance between typewriting and graphic design. As we can see it here, there is a poster for the movie called Midnight Cowboy, and also for the David Lynch Blue Velvet. We don't really see the actors, we don't see the, I don't know, explosions, we don't see the cars, we don't see all those images that are included in the Hollywood productions. They are just kind of representations of the thoughts of the artists by themselves. What we can see and what we can recognize is that they are very much independent of way of thinking, way of looking, and they really catch our eyes on the image. So that's another movie poster for the Crocodile Dundee, and we can see in the teeth some kind of skyscrapers, and there's always some kind of image behind. So the first thing is to catch the eye of the audience, that we see the poster, and then if we look deeper and if we stay longer, going back to the point, watching the museum images, we can see something else. There will be some kind of surprise. That was something which was very much happening in the Polish School of Poster, and it was very much surprising people and making them, watching them carefully. So I will show some kind of posters, and as you can see, there are different ways of, I would say that most of what is special about poster, it's part of the graphic design history, but it all includes photography, painting, drawing, typography. So in general, we can see all the art stages in this simple form. The main thing about the poster, the main concept about it is that we need to minimalize it. We need to make kind of witty thinking to provoke the audience to react, to show, to catch them. So as you can see, here is a Grzegorz Marszałek poster for the Superman, the third part, and on the left side there is a sketch for the poster. So on both sides they prove that the artist was had a very good skills in drawing, but also in painting. So most of the posters, they were prepared as sketches and then transferred into images, the final version of the images. What I was mentioning is that there was this kind of balance between typography and the image. So I think it's still, when I teach my students, it's very important, because most of the people, they don't see the balance because they want to put everything in one image. So they don't see the weight of the project, and it won't be strong when we put the very big name of Superman. So most of the posters based in Hollywood, they would mention very strong names of the actors and the director, and the image So you never recognize what is more or less important. And also those creations by the artists, like here Jan Młodorzeńec, they were very much based on their imagination, of their thoughts, of their feelings. And we can see it, that they have a very strong impact on ourselves, that we don't find anything else but those posters when we watch them. That's the left one is a poster for the movie of with Robert De Niro a long time ago in America by Sergio Leone, and the right one is The God's Bodies, the other movie. The poster design in Poland was very much influenced by different art styles also. As we can see on the left side, there is a poster of Franciszek Starowiejski, which is based on he was very much fascinated of Baroque style. So even the date he was changing to the 16th century instead of writing 19th century. And we can see this kind of his attitude to that time, and creating the poster for the movie with a school, but also touching the concept of the Baroque time. And the right one is based on the geometric form. So we can see that there are a lot of different possibilities of showing the posters. I like when poster by itself, it's not only showing one thing, representing one thing, but when we look deeper, like here, for example, we see something else. We don't recognize everything immediately, so there is some kind of secret behind, like there is a music player in the head of this geisha. There is like this poster is Back to the Future of Steven Spielberg. Actually, we don't recognize the movie by seeing this poster immediately. We have to read what's that image representing. So it's very much making a lot of fun of watching those posters. Also, the poster school of Polish poster is very, nowadays it's very much being a part of collection of famous directors like Quentin Tarantino has a big collection, and a lot of art directors they would love to have those movie posters, because since they were making the movies, they didn't see before what was presented in Polish posters. This is a poster by Jan Lenica to the movie of Roman Polanski, Cul-de-sac, which was awarded in Cannes. So you can see. And the right one, as we can see, is based on the Beatles' Yellow Submarine. It's also kind of, I would say, Polish poster was the first remix in general. Later on, music took remix, but in Polish poster, we can see a lot of remixes. So this kind of influence is giving the chance for the artist to create the new world, which I find very interesting, because we can see that behind the poster, there will be some surprise by a movie. This is the Alien, which this sort of representation is not, we can't find it in the movie, actually. It's just an imagination of the designer. Then there is the Apocalypse Now, which most of us will know this movie by Francis Ford Coppola, and it's just showing some kind of strong representation of Marlon Brando as the hero of that movie. There is the Muppets, which are going to Hollywood, and another movie from Sam Peckinpah, and some Polish movies. So if we look at each of them, we don't really find any style. We just see some kind of different images which might put a question, where the hell is the Polish school of poster actually? What is the style? And I think what is the most important in designing poster is to think that each poster that we design should be each masterwork, each artwork. So it should be independent. It shouldn't look at the other sides. It should just, the artist should create an image that would appear in front of us and should surprise us. That's a very nice poster by Edward Lutchen for the Rocky movie. So we can see the glove also making a heart. And during that communistic period, the most common movies and most popular movies were based on Western. I don't know, Polish people, they loved Western during that time. Nowadays, it's not anymore that popular, but there is another group of the posters. I have a book in English which is focusing only on the topic Western Polish movies. So we'll find some images that would represent the ideas of the Western movies. The left poster is by Roman Cieślewicz. And what I would like to mention is that most of the artists which came out from the School of Polish Poster were based on Warsaw Academy of Fine Arts, and their head of the poster studio was Henryk Tomaszewski. And nearly every poster designer, he started his own career, and this career was not only working in Poland, but it was also very much outstanding and important for the Western countries. So Roman Cieślewicz, the author of this poster, he went to Paris, and after, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, he started to live there. He became a very important person in the graphic design in France, and I think one of the most important graphic designers in the 70s, because he became head of the Centre Pompidou, which was just built then. He was the art director of the Centre Pompidou, and later on he was an art director of Paris Vogue and also of Your Style magazine. So he was a very important person. Also, he was working with Helmut Newton, the famous photographer, building art stages for the prêt-à-porter in Paris. So those designers, they were very interdisciplinary. They were able to paint, to draw, to create many things, and they started to influence the rest of the world. The other thing is like turning off this concept of movie posters. The other thing is the cultural poster. I've put it most of the, let's say, a lot of posters in here, just to give you the idea, the concept of how different and how interesting it is, and it was in the time in the past. The right one is the poster of an exhibition of Frank Lloyd Wright by Waldemar Świeży. He also became a very famous poster designer. Actually, I know in Taiwan, poster was not a collectible item, but in the past in Poland, people started to collect posters. And nowadays, if you have a little collection, me and Aga, we are collecting posters. They achieved very big prices, so you can have a lot of money of that. I know from my friends, and I was also co-working and making posters for Taiwan movie festival, that the posters, when they appear, they are printed and then they disappear. So that's kind of pity. Maybe if there is some people, you can consider collecting and making something with those posters. So this is like Frank Lloyd Wright, and Waldemar Świeży had a strong way of designing posters. He was very recognizable, but sometimes when you design a poster dedicated to some famous person, you have to get rid of your style and create something which will make a discussion between the person you dedicate your poster and yourself. So it's always, by designing a poster, it's always a compromise between something and yourself. And you shouldn't be that egoistic, because then you get boring, I think. So to other posters, one of Bogusławski from Gdańsk, very simple way of seeing who Adolf Hitler was, and then another Waldemar Świeży with Mick Jagger. The left one, yeah, it's kind of, it's a strong poster, but I mean, like, the system was not allowing people to present their opinions, but sometimes the images which were appearing were not necessarily showing the things that we are prepared to see. So that's a theater poster for Tadeusz Różewicz White Wedding screenplay, and it's representing let's say, mushroom and peanuts in those two ways. The other person is Lex Drewinski, which finished also University of Fine Arts in Poznań, and he moved to Germany, to Berlin, to Western Berlin then, and he became a very famous poster designer in all over the world. Also, he is the most awarded person of poster designers in the world. He achieved around maybe 200 mentions and awards in all over the world, and also he had a solo exhibition in Centre Pompidou, so a very important person. And that's a poster for his own exhibition. What I really like, he likes to create posters which they don't use typography. So I love when the poster is representing some kind of image that we read, like a sign on the street, and we can get the concept. That's another poster designer, Wałkuski, also based kind of in between Baroque and surrealistic way. So you can see it's hand painted and very well designed posters, which they are really spectacular. In Poland, in the Polish School of Poster, those posters which were dedicated to opera or theater, they were kind of more detailed and precise works. And later on, those artists, they moved to New York, to Metropolitan Opera. They were designing, like Olbiński, they were designing posters in there. So it turned to be very famous. Some other posters, and another Lenica poster for Polański movie. And Waldemar Świeży, he also had a lot of posters dedicated to jazz. And I would say this kind of posters, they are the first approval of, we call it nowadays, the self-publishing posters. So artist by himself, he's creating a poster because he wants to design it, because he has some idea, or he's protesting against something, or he wants to make some kind of homage. And Waldemar Świeży was making a lot of tributes, homage in French, to the famous jazz and popular musicians. So this one is based on that. And that's a Otello Verdi poster of Lenica. Lenica was, as we saw before, he was very much influenced of Art Nouveau, Secession time. And we can see also this hidden image here. So it's always surprising something. This is Lex Drewinski. I think it's like very actual poster nowadays. It's about racism. And that's the poster which I think got award in Warsaw Poster Biennale and in other countries too. And that's the one which doesn't need any typography explanation. We just see this feet stepping on the black face. The left one is Michał Batory, based on, he moved to Paris, France. And nowadays, whenever I was in Paris and I was traveling through 6 years to Paris, I had a chance nearly each of my visits, I saw his poster designs, and later on I saw his poster exhibition in Musée des Arts Décoratifs, which is a part of Louvre in Paris. So those two I especially put together because I can see that sometimes we can have kind of similar ideas, but we can show them in a different way. This is the theater play Mein Kampf, and then the other one is an opera, for the opera. Here is also a poster by Tomasz Bogusławski from Gdańsk. What I really like, he's always finding some kind of image, some kind of tools, free market things, and then he's creating posters for that. That's called migraine, and we can see this kind of thing that makes you heat, and also some kind of representation of women's body. And also the other surrealistic poster by Wiesław Wałkuski. This is Fangor. Fangor actually, he was a very, very good poster designer, but also he became a very famous painter, and he received later Guggenheim Award, and he had a solo exhibition in Guggenheim in New York. So you can see most of those designers, they had different ways of becoming popular and famous, and they were using different mediums. This is the left one is also by Fangor. It's a Picasso exhibition, and the right one is it's a strong poster by Lex Drewinski showing how the word works. I don't think I need any explanation for that. You don't need. Other two posters from Paris from Michał Batory. Very simple way of showing how we hear some kind of surrealistic idea of making the mixture between photography and image and the concept. Also Bogusławski collecting things, as you can see here, Kurt Weill, Three Grosz opera, and Ryszard Kaja, which passed away last year. He made he was one of the reasons we made the exhibition called Tribute to Hong Kong. He started to make kind of posters which were dedicated to Polish cities and towns and villages. And this is Podhale, part of the Polish mountains, which also is representing kind of folk style cuttings and the woman's body. Lex Drewinski, another one after that one. So we can, that was the theater poster, and we can see the body of woman and a snake between the legs. The other thing I'm moving forward is that I was mentioning publishing self-published poster, and one of the self-publishing poster was the circus. When we think what is circus and how posters should look, like two dedicated to poster, we will consider things which are included in the circus and also the dates and stuff like that. But that was something completely different, because poster designers, they started to make kind of movement with circus poster, and they started to make their own ideas about circus. So it was not dedicated to particular one circus that was appearing in some kind of town. It was just their own idea of designing things and making them creating new things. So there were funny, colorful images by the most well-known Polish poster designers. And also there is a lot of collectors in New York that they are collecting. Sorry, I'm getting dry of talking all the time, so I need to drink a little bit. And those posters were kind of representing their own style, combined with the idea of circus. And a lot of collectors now are kind of fighting for those designs. One thing is that the editions of those posters were not huge. It was hard to get them. As I remember, when there was this publishing place, they were leaving like 30 posters or 40 posters that were not hanging on the streets. So you could buy them. And when you had them, you should put them in the shelf and wait for a longer time to make some money of them. And also there were kind of optimistic, funny ideas of graphic presenting the concept of circus. This one is funny. It looks like Mona Lisa making yoga. This one was already, I'm sorry. Actually, those images are very strong, and they could be a very nice designs for t-shirts and for covers and many things. And now I would like to talk, to finish my presentation, presenting the images of nowadays, because I think there is still a big continuation because of the, as I said before, because of the Polish School of Poster and because of the tradition that we have nowadays, and also that there are so many institutions involved, public institutions involved in poster design. So we make a lot of effort to present them, and a lot of vernissage and events. And whenever there is some kind of controversial situation, there are a lot of institutions that would ask poster designers for designing their posters. So this presentation is a mixture of posters which are cultural, social posters, and etc. And also we keep designing movie posters. So this is a Hamlet poster, which is based on the concept of Lucio Fontana, the famous contemporary artist, which cutted his painting. And this is made by Marcin Markowski from my university, a colleague, and the other one as well. The left one is by Marcin Władyka from University of Academy of Fine Arts in Warsaw. The right one by Małgorzata Gurowska, which is a very well-known also book designer. She received a lot of awards, including China. These are my past students, Agnieszka Popek and Kamil Banach. They were very good students, and they moved to another city, and where they started to design posters for the theater dramatic. This is Philip Toffil for Bauhaus, because we have now this anniversary of 100 years of Bauhaus, so there were a lot of exhibitions of posters dedicated to that anniversary. And here is one of my past students, Grzegorz Myćka, one of the well-known posters also are awarded, and also very actual, I must say. And also they, in my city, they made the city president, they paid for making this poster, turning this poster into graffiti. So we have one wall in our city which represents this image. Also, there is this Grzegorz Myćka idea of circus here, the shape of the circus, and also this kind of double meaning. And Casablanca version poster by Homework Studio. It's a couple of Skakun and Górska. Małgorzata Gurowska. Also Małgorzata Gurowska. The poster dedicated to Stop Hate movement. And actually, I see a lot of influence of the old Polish school of poster, like in the poster here, that it's really much kind of retro style. It's using old typography. And to tell you one hidden story about this, most of the designers that were painting before the letterings, they didn't have any possibility to have letter presses at home, or they didn't have computer that time. So, and later on in the 80s, there came kind of letters from Letraset company. So you were able to transfer them from the sheets of transparent paper. Another two posters, Love Express by Skakun Górska. Another new posters, Funny Pinocchio. So you can see the concept of designing posters nowadays, and these are two of my posters. The design is still alive, and the idea of creating your own images that you work with, that you create your own style, not so much repeating other ways. So there is not one movement in the way of designing posters. Sometimes people would turn back into the past to see how the images they were done, to get some kind of impression of this. This is another poster I designed for Knife in the Water. I don't know, something blurred here, I'm sorry. This one is really nice, Lolita with a lollipop. And also Skakun Górska, another poster designs for their own exhibitions of the movie posters, because they are focusing mostly in the movie posters. And this one is a poster from 1959, I think, from Henryk Tomaszewski, the father of Polish school of poster. And what is important is that we can see a very strong image from 59, and really nothing we're able to compare to that. He was using cutting scissors and papers. Also, he was teaching students with the scissors and cutting papers to show them how to make the good composition, for example. And this poster, I think, is one of the most important, because it started to give the idea what we can do with the poster. Later on, someone took this typography and created a typeface called Moore. And that was the poster for the exhibition of Henry Moore sculptures in Warsaw, 1959. So it could be a poster from nowadays, from our times, but it's from the past, which I find very fresh and surprising, because when we see things from the past, like from Art Nouveau or Art Deco time, we just place them in that time. And those posters from Tomaszewski, we really don't put them on that time, except for the quality of printing, because there was not the best paper, not the best colors for printing, but the image was still strong. And that's his poster for his wife's exhibition. She was a painter, and some other posters from nowadays. And from my friend Michał Tatarkiewicz, which I find really interesting. He made a poster for a kind of tribute for Chopin. What I find very interesting, most of us, if we saw the picture of Chopin, we know how his nose looks like, and also it reminds the shape of the piano. So I really find it funny and well distanced, and we don't need to always to show the face of the person we want to make a tribute. That's the way of which I like in witty thinking, is that we don't show the obvious thing. And I was always mentioning that to my students, like one of the worst logo types in the world is the logo of Apple, because it represents the apple, and under this apple we can see the letters which they mean apple. So we have double apple in one apple, and instead of seeing just one image and reading it. This is a very nice poster of Małgorzata Gurowska, based on Louis Vuitton, for children, and from Jan Bajtlik, which is now one of the most famous Polish designers. He's working for Paris Hermès. He's designing things for the company. This one is a well-awarded poster by Szymon Szymankiewicz, also a colleague from my university, which is discussing with how the time is changing if we are still being in this kind of Second World War mood, if we change. So he's giving those questions, and that's all. And what I wanted to say is also that me myself, I was raised by a child of a poster designer. My father is a poster designer, and he's a professor at university. So when I was young, the Polish School of Poster was still existing, and I had a chance to go with him to watch the movies before the official screenings. So I remember we were going to see some movies, and there was me, my father, and a guy which was reading the screenplay during the movie for us to understand. And then my father was creating a poster. So I have this personal attitude to that, and I'm really happy I can share it with you. And thank you for listening.
I remember I also visit Max and his father once a time. And I was asking about what's the memory to living in between before communism and after democracy. So it's amazing that his father say it's nothing to change because Max's father already living in the liberal mindset at the moment. And then I think Aga will help us to introduce what's the poster lies is going on that happened in the PNQ Hong Kong.
Yeah, I think we just talked many things tonight, and then what is the most important things we talked about today? It's the Biennale of the Polish poster, the first Biennale in the world, international Biennale, the phenomenon of the Polish, the school of Polish posters, and the continuators, the artists who still continue the way of thinking, and they create the posters nowadays, which are very strong indeed, and they still want to take part in this exhibitions, and the Biennale is still existing. And I would like to quote the words by the first Biennale winner, the Jan Lenica, who called the posters as a flying horses, because the posters are not really advertising; they are not commercial at all. They are art. I think in '66 they already delayed the border. They just said poster is an art. And the flying horses are still happening. And the designers, you know, from advertising companies, they also have a chance by taking part, you know, in such a context to show the best of them, to be artists. And I think it's important to blur the border in a way, not always put things in a drawer. And I think Max also mentions about that. So what we want to do with Max, we want to show the best of the Polish art and in Asia somehow. And it happened that I moved to Hong Kong in 2015, and I couldn't stop thinking about, you know, presenting and showing the art here from Poland, from my country. So that's why we decided to establish a project called Posterized, which Ipe is also involved as a Taiwanese curator. So we did an exhibition in 2018 in the PMQ in Hong Kong with the help of Polish consulate. So let me show the screen of that there. So thanks to the Polish consulate and thanks for PMQ director William To and his team, we did a big show of the Polish poster art at PMQ, which was showcasing more than 30 artists from Poland, including the generation of the older ones and like the afterward generation artists, and also the youngest one. We also conducted some workshops, the curators' talks. We invited children to participate in the poster workshops. The exhibition lasted for almost 3 weeks, and it was visited by thousands of people every week. And it was a big table sheet that people were coming and drawing together, and it was just getting longer and longer. And it was amazing that in such a busy city as Hong Kong, people found time to stop and just sit and draw for hours. And we showcased the 3 generations of poster designers with many culture posters, like let's say the flying horses, so not really the commercial posters, more like culture posters. But we also did something new, and we invited some of the most interesting designers to design posters, tributes to Hong Kong. And it was a very special project. It was in 2018 on May, so before all the changes happened here. So some of those designers were not in Hong Kong, were never came here, but
the concept was based on the idea, like we used to design the movie posters, that most of the artists, they were not in Hong Kong before, so they had to create their own image of the idea of what Hong Kong is for them.
Yeah, so we have many of those artists that Max was talking about, like Małgorzata Gurowska. It was a dog era. We have Lex Drewinski, show the percentage and the balance of the financial capital. We have Max work here. And it was very popular. People really enjoy it, and we thought it's kind of nice when we are presenting the Polish artists in a city like Hong Kong. It's really nice to do something for that city. So this time we couldn't really do a joint exhibition. It was too early but that's what we are planning in the future. We really want to build a bridge and make a more joint exhibition, involve Hong Kong designers, Polish designers, maybe Japanese, Taiwanese and Chinese artists to come together, because we feel there is still a lot to explore in the field of poster art and graphic design. And this is the oldest posters which was shown, and it was actually a winning poster at the 6th Warsaw Biennale in 75. And here you see the previous Polish consul, Mr. Mieczysław Wasilewski, and the director of PMQ, Mr. William To. Yeah, and we also did some smaller events in Hong Kong, more like smaller individual exhibitions of Polish artists, together with workshops that we always want to involve the local community to have a chance to cross culture and to meet the Polish designers and want to work together. And what is for me very interesting that also in Hong Kong, somehow Hong Kong love posters, and PMQ decided to be a host of the first Hong Kong edition of JAGDA annual show, the Graphic Design Japan 2019. I had the pleasure to be invited as a curator of that show. And it was an amazing journey for me to discover, together with the artists like Henry Steiner, who is the SHBC logo designer in Hong Kong, and to discover, the beauty of the Japanese design and all the connections between Poland. It was my motivation. After having the chance to be involved in that exhibition, I started to research myself, and I found out that we are very deeply connected, by the poster art. And even Henry Steiner, he was invited to Warsaw a few times, and his poster is in a Warsaw museum in the collection of foreigner posters. It's that one. So this is something that makes me feel that there is a lot to do here, and I would like to work with Yipe and Max more, and with other people who are interested to explore the art of posters, and that's why we are very happy that we could share this talk together tonight. And, thank you, Yipe, again for organizing that. And
thank you, Aga and Max. I wonder in our audience room, is anyone has question?
What I wanted to add to that, to our talks, is that poster has something really nice. It's above the languages, so it's sharing the idea of the international language. So sharing these images is also talking with each other, which I find really important for nowadays in the globalism time.
Especially if we can talk without words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, personally, I'm not have so much knowledge about the typography, but working together with the Polish art and the Polish artists, it helped me learn a lot without academic knowledge, but I can learn so many things together, how to use the international language to pass on our message and communicate with each other. And then it's also help us to reflect the time, the situation, the society, how the Western and the Eastern to react at the moment. Yeah. Have anyone has a question? Okay, so if not, I would like to share the last slide. So later on, you can find more information to follow Instagram or Facebook for Clip, Lifestyle, Posterized, and the Max Skorwider.
But it's just
it's about 10 o'clock here, and I think at the moment Abaso has a lot of online viewing room that we also can find so many Polish contemporary artists work there. And then moment in Taiwan, we also have a very fascinating sculpture artist in Taiwan as well. It's very good to find out this Polish artist now is in Asia, and then we can see how the movement that we can keep going on together.
Yeah, we're also planning to do some exhibitions in Hong Kong, if everything goes well, of course, due to current situation. We are planning to do an exhibition in October, showcasing a special kind of posters tribute to Chopin, because it's the 210th anniversary of the Chopin birthday. And also, we are planning to do like a joint exhibition that I hope it will happen. But if so, I'm sure IP Gallery will also share all the information.
Oh, let's someone want to ask a question. Would you like to turn on the microphone, or you want to type in the chatting room?
Maybe microphone, easier.
Hello, it's me who wrote, and I want to ask a question. First, I want to make sure that you hear me very well.
Yeah, very well.
Okay, so I have a question. Just before you said that poster is a universal language that everyone from all over the world can understand. And I noticed that before you showed us a poster, a Konstytucja, and I knew that it is closely connected to the Polish language, because I know Polish language and I can speak in this language. And I wonder how you introduce such kind of poster to the people from other parts of the world, to the audience who don't know Polish language, because those who don't know Polish language, when they see the poster Konstytucja, and they cannot immediately understand what is the intention, what is the idea of the poster, why the T, Y, and J actually, so it is T and Ya is highlighted here. So I wonder how you introduce such kind of poster to people from other parts of the world. So that's my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question.
I would say, like, first of all, it's a question to the poster designer, not necessarily to us. But if I would, the poster should have the international version in English, probably. So if we make the same poster with the words Constitution, then we can have you inside the Constitution. So it might be understandable by the foreigners.
Mm-hmm. And I think like that kind of posters, they will obviously need a short explanation, and they are made, especially for the circumstances of the country situation, and they respond to some particular events, and they will need a short explanation.
But in general, I was
right. It could be happy to have a version in English.
By itself should be understandable by most of the nations, if we are trying to achieve some kind of communicate above our local problems or situations. Of course, there will always be some kind of stereotype and different inside meanings of each nation, but in general, when we talk about posters dedicated to culture, to social aspects, to climate change, we'll use the same language to communicate. That's what I was thinking about.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any other question?
Hi, I got a question.
Oh, please go on.
Hi. In fact, I'm a Hong Kong people, so I quite got emotional attached of what you guys are working on, because the exhibition venue is where I am familiar with Oh yeah, plus I'm not in Hong Kong, so therefore it's very easy for me to get emotional when I see like very familiar places again. So what I'm wondering is, because you guys also work with different artists from different places, but work on a same topic, work on a same subject. So may I know, how do you find the how is the differences for you guys having so different background to understand on a same subject?
First of all, me and Max, we are having the similar background in a way, because we studied and worked together till 2000, for me till 2015, and I went to Hong Kong in 2015. So for me, Hong Kong is more like a new place to be. And Yipe was also kind of a person who was always involved in, like since many years, involved in, connecting and building bridges between Poland and Taiwan. So that's what connects us together, to work together as a team. And I think that's a passion about the poster art that we share. So if you're asking about three of us, how we work together, it's more or less that one. But if about the artists that we are working with, it's the Posterized exhibition actually invited the artists from Poland.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so so it's mainly based on our background and our, kind of knowledge about the Polish art and design that we wanted to show here. And it's a starting point to connect to the other designers and artists that we are planning to do next shows, that will be more kind of bridges and more cross-cultural exhibitions.
Yeah, I found my point is about Taiwan is always very close with Hong Kong, and there are so many political situations that we could stand for together. And it also was the moment when Aga is moving to Hong Kong at that time. We are trying to figure out how to helping a friend to relocate in the Eastern culture, especially to adapt in the Chinese culture and the Hong Kong culture, and how it's a difference to find out or to understand the historical development between the times. Such a complicated Chinese culture and the lifestyle. So I think it's based on understanding different cultures. Then we start to develop how to work, add on the value that we can try contribute with each other.
And it happened that we are here in the times that the poster can connect us very deeply. And I think what you said, that you are moved and touched, I think we can understand what you are talking about and what's happening now. We have a lot of issues that the poster can be a medium.
Sure.
And it's also a experimental way to challenging if they're Polish artists never been in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
How could how would they to look up the city and how to understand another culture without visiting physically?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was in 2018, so just before the things happened here. And it's even more touching when we think about that now, that these people create the posters without visiting the city. That might be that we will have to create things like that way. Yeah.
Thank you for answering.
All right. I think it's a bit late now. Thank you, everyone. And if you like our sharing and talk, you can free to contact with us.